Oh, about in.
Blistering starts to a tennis match.
Shakespeare got it wrong. It wasn't King Lear. It's King Lear.
LeBron James with no regard for human.
Yuvraj Singh finishes things off on style.
This is a News Laundry podcast, and you're listening to NL Playoffs.
Hello and welcome to NL Playoffs. My name is Gautam. I have with me my co-host Aniket. Aniket, say hi.
Hello world.
This is round 14 of our podcast. We are 2 weeks worth the number of days, Aniket. So has a good ring to it, I think. We are recording this on the 2nd of February at 9:15 a.m. India time. Aniket, there are lots of sports going on, but you and I haven't caught up with all of it. So which is why we have a fellow subscriber joining us to talk about everything that's happened at the Australian Open that just concluded. We have with us Abhijit. Abhijit, how are you doing, man?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you, boys?
Doing good, alive and kicking.
Yeah, alive and kicking. Abhijit, by the way, is our first recurring podcast guest. So you have that distinct honor, Abhijit. So thanks for coming on again, man. We really value your sporting knowledge, especially in tennis. You actually talk to us briefly about the work that you do with the Indian tennis program that you do. I know that you have an Instagram page and all of that. So if you want to go ahead and plug it also, that would be great.
Sure. So Indian Tennis Delhi is a group of 70, let's say, volunteers all around the world. What they do is they just update audiences with updates regarding Indian players, coaches, and events. And this is a non-profit organization. So everybody is just like a tennis fan. And if all of us are just, taking time out to work on this project, I would recommend everybody to go and check out indiantennisdelhi.com and follow them on social media as well.
For sure, man. Definitely. Yeah. Go check it out, guys. Aniket, we will be talking a lot of tennis today with the Australian Open that just concluded with Ashleigh, Barty and Rafael Nadal. I'm sure we'll talk more and more about both of them. But I'll let you take the lead on the headlines today.
Sure. So something that's on national headlines today, and also we'll come into the sports section, is that the union budget was released. So in the Lok Sabha, the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman on Tuesday revealed an increase in funds for more than rupees 300 crore in the sports allocation, and this is compared to last year. So the total budget allocation for this year now stands at 3,062 crores, and this is an increment of around 300 crores, as I said earlier, compared to last year. So that is some form of good news for Indian sports, because the amount that's allocated into the National Youth Empowerment Program has been increased as a result of this increment to about 138 crores. And also the Khelo India program's budget has now been bumped up to 974 crores. So I'm only guessing this can be good for the sporting world. Hopefully the money is well utilized.
Well, that is the key, right? Hopefully the money is well utilized. The budget can increase, budget allocations are always there. We were talking about very briefly to Sharda Agra about it in our last episode too, as to how, these associations are not exactly the best when it comes to utilizing their resources that they have. By the way, guys, check out our last episode with Sharda Agra. It was a really eye-opening conversation with her. She's a seasoned journalist, so we talked a lot of things. So definitely check that out. But yeah, Abhijit, quick question to you. I know you work with the Indian tennis stuff. Do you guys get any kind of resource allocation from the national government at all, or is it all private?
It's all private for now, but because it's just that's how we've functioned until now. But yeah, maybe in the future, if we want to, let's say, send volunteers across different events to cover the events, stuff like that. So yeah, maybe we will seek some funding in the future.
Well, hopefully you get it without a lot of red tape, but we'll see how that goes, right?
So that's from the Indian budget. The other stuff that we want to talk about is a sport that we both always converge on, Gautam, is football. So obviously the transfer market has been buzzing because this is the winter transfer market that opens for a short duration, and a lot of time clubs are either papering over their cracks at this time, or finding outlets to either win or avoid relegation. So that's typically how this transfer saga goes. So, or trying to fire the coaches, well said. because you've seen a lot of that happen this time. As always, I think it's always been the thing that you always either have a coach leaving or coming in. So this time there has been some interesting signings, as you know. So, and we want to talk about that, especially in terms of coaches. So just to give a brief overview of what's happening. So one thing's very interesting I've noticed is a lot of good players are actually going to run out of contracts this summer. So you'll have players like Kylian Mbappe, Pogba, Rudiger, Dybala. All of them by the coming summer are actually going to be out of contracts. So now they're in the market looking for new contracts. And what's very interesting is that we are now seeing that clubs are actually facing monetary issues because of what's happened in the past year due to COVID. So you don't have these crazy contracts going on now, like Barca gave Ousmane Dembele, for 400,000 pound per week salary just to sit on the bench and get injured. So clubs are now being much more cautious about how they actually spend this money and where it's going to go. I'm guessing that's a good thing for football because it's because of stuff like this my club Barcelona has actually run itself into the ground, and we are doing some very funny stuff, or I don't know, shady stuff. I don't know how do you say it, but yeah. So our signings have been a little off the charts this time. So I'm very interested to basically briefly talk about that.
Yeah, just talk to us about that, Aniket. Just curious because I know Barcelona is in this big financial hole, but they still ended up signing Ferran Torres. They signed Adama Traore. I know it's on loan, but they'll probably buy him after this season. Who knows? They got Aubameyang from Arsenal, who was in his own bowl of hot soup out there. Tell us what the thinking is behind, because they're already struggling. And the whole Dembele thing too.
Yeah, so a lot's going on at Barcelona. Just like you said, everyone knows this, but just to say it again, we got rid of our star player Lionel Messi last year because we couldn't afford his wages anymore. And now we've run into problems because our youngsters, especially Ansu Fati and Pedri, are actually running into a lot of injuries. So Ansu Fati's been injured again, and we saw him walk off the pitch while he was crying. So it was terrible. And that's led to a couple of signings. So there's Ferran Torres, we've signed from Man City, and I think he's signed for 55 million plus additional 10 million, and depending on some conditions. So that's an interesting signing. We had Ousmane Dembele, whom I briefly spoke about, and he's on an extremely huge contract, and he's not been the best of signings of Barcelona because there is injury problems, there is associated with him, there's discipline problems. So a lot of times he's been, late for training or various indisciplines, not following diet or all possible. He's covered the spectrum, I think, of the things you can do. And he also doesn't show up in a lot of games. Like it's basically, I think he's a moody player. So he shows up, I think, when he wants, which is not working out for Barcelona. So we were trying to offload him, or basically reduce or re-sign him for a lower wages. But then he's refused to sign a lower wage as of now. That contract was repealed. So we have now basically said that he's going to leave. So he's a lot of clubs were interested. PSG and Chelsea were both interested in getting him, but I think nobody has signed because they know that in 6 months they're going to get him for free anyways. So he's not been signed, but we've signed, like you mentioned, Adama Traore, who was not even in the Wolves' first team. So we've signed him, but I think the signing was from the perspective of actually trying to tell Dembele that we found someone who can play your position, if not long term, at least for this season. And Adama Traore has actually taken a severe wage cut to actually come to Barcelona. So rumors say that he's taken a wage cut. He's getting about 15 to 20,000 pounds per week, which is pretty low compared to what is. I don't know how far these values are true because this is from the internet. But similarly with Aubameyang, so as we didn't have enough disciplinary problems with Ousmane Dembele, now we want to sign a captain who was not performing and who was benched by Mikel Arteta. We have actually gone and signed him on a free transfer.
With his own set of disciplinary issues again.
Absolutely, and it was very disheartening to see that Barca even actually signed him. But then the other part is we have our front lead is Luke de Jong, and we are playing with Martin Braithwaite and Luke de Jong out there. So if this deal goes well for Aubameyang, because I think he's been lucky to get out at age of 32. because he was benched for disciplinary action, and now suddenly playing for Barca. I think he's got out lucky. So if he uses it well, and if it serves Barca well even for 6 months, I think it will be a decent signing, because if he's in form, I think he's definitely better than Luke de Jong, and he's someone we would like to have up top playing for us. So this is like a brief overview of what's happening with Barcelona. It's been a busy transfer market, but this is where we are, and we are now going to be playing in the Europa League. And I think the goal is to get into the top 4 next time. I mean, that's where we are right now, is to try and make it to the top 4. So it'll be interesting to see where this takes us.
Just moving on with something that's common between you and me and how we met, Aniket. Frank Lampard has been appointed as the Everton coach. How about that?
Yes, and I'm super excited because he's back managing. Excited to see how he does. With him come Dele Alli and I think Van de Beek, so from United. So 2 interesting signings. I'm excited to see how he does in Everton, because his I think Chelsea stint was cut short, unfortunately, in my opinion. But I'd be very excited to see how he does. So it's interesting time for Premier League, because a lot of transfers have happened, and I don't think we have time to cover all that's happened in the Premier League this time. But we are picking and choosing, so I chose Frank Lampard.
Boys, did you check out the Frank Lampard's interview with Gary Neville, where they say when they used to go to Tottenham Hotspur, they didn't call it White Hart Lane, they used to call it 3-point lane. That interview, I think you should check out. Very entertaining. And yeah, even I'm excited to see what Lampard does at Everton.
I mean, with Everton, they have had their share of coaches. There was Rafa, there is Ancelotti, there's all these guys, right? But they still end up being in the same place as before. They end up still at the 8th place, 7th place, 9th place all the time. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. But I think it's a good low-key, kind of a relatively low-key club to get into for Frank Lampard. It takes him a little bit away from the limelight of Chelsea. As before, he had a lot of pressure.
The most successful coach.
It will be tough, right? Because Carlo Ancelotti went there and couldn't do much. I mean, it just sets the stage pretty high for Lampard. So it'll be interesting to see what he does there.
Let's switch gears and just move on to what we are really here for today, which is the Australian Open that just got concluded. Now, Abhijit, obviously the big story is
21 major titles from one of the greatest players of all time.
Nadal winning his 21st. Did you see this coming at all? Let's 3 months before, right? Let's say in 2021, end of 2021. Did you see this coming at all with Nadal, that he's going to make it this far into a Grand Slam and then win it all?
Yes, kind of. I don't know if you remember the last time we spoke on the same podcast. I was saying that everybody just talks about Djokovic and Federer being the greatest, and Rafa kind of never got that due recognition. And as I said, these 3 of them are still active, and I had a feeling that Rafa will make a comeback, because he always does. He did it back in 2012. His 2013 season was brilliant. He did the same in 2017, and he's like a king of comeback. So I was kind of expecting something like this, and yeah, he did it, man. 21 Grand Slams, first man to do so. Brilliant.
It's very interesting, because I was re-listening to the snippet you sent, right, and it rang a bell in my head, because when you asked this question, Gautam, I'm going to answer it from my perspective. I never thought that Rafa would be... I knew he would get to the 21 slams. I mean, there was no doubt about it, but I never knew he would be the first to get there. I never guessed it, because... And this Abhijit's words reminds me, because he's always been catching up, right? He's always been the guy who is playing catch up with, he had Federer early in the days, where Federer was 16 slams, I think, and Rafa was 10. And then there's always this game of catch up being played. So now, after I saw the finals, I'm so glad and so happy for him, because even the way he won the 21st slam, I think he's made a mark just... And we'll go to this game. Let's not jump right in there, because we have other topics to talk about before we get to the men's finals. But even the style of the way he won this slam, I think he's commanded the world's respect with this particular victory, in my opinion.
You know what this reminded me a little bit of? The final itself reminded me of the Federer-Roddick Wimbledon clash, when Roddick just outplayed Federer, and then in the 5th set, just Federer he knew at the right time he made the right points, right, Abhijit?
Yeah, what a match that was, man. Like, I feel bad for Roddick, the poor guy reached Wimbledon final, 3 times, and he lost to Federer all 3 times. And I mean, Medvedev was 2 sets up, and then, he lost from there. So
let's talk about Medvedev and versus Nadal in the final. Medvedev was outplaying Nadal for the first 2 sets, and Nadal kind of was slowly finding his way through. Kind of the story of his story in the Australian Open, that he was kind of finding his way through all of these games. He was dropping sets left and right in the lead up to the final. Anyway, what did you make of the whole final?
So actually, I don't know, for some reason, I'm thinking of the last year's US Open final. Again, Medvedev was so dominant. He won the first 2 sets easily. In the third set, he was leading, and then I don't know if you remember, there was the crowd interruption, and he was really frustrated, but he still managed to close the set out and win the championship. I think something similar happened this time. He took the first sets, and then the third set he was kind of leading, and then something happened with the crowd, and then overall the crowds at this Open were quite disappointing. And he mentioned the same in the press conference also, that he didn't like the crowd's behavior and stuff like that. And again, of course, you have to give credit to Rafa also, that he managed to capitalize on that and made a stunning comeback. But I think the crowd had a bit of role to play in this story.
Sure. And so, I mean, let's take this set by set, right? Because that's kind of how I'm trying to recap this game is the first set. So the first set, the way Medvedev played, I thought it was all done. I mean, I'm like, okay, because especially where I remember vividly, and this is not the only great thing, but Medvedev was actually playing Rafa on his backhand, and it was like a tactic that was being used, right? He was forcing Rafa onto his backhand. And then Medvedev played these straight down the court backhand shots that winners to get Rafa, and he seemed very confident even after the first set.
I was killing him on the serve too.
Yeah, exactly, and it was very well played. So whatever the plan was, I think he was at that point. I was just looking at the numbers. So he was dominating these short rallies, hitting more winners, I think, in the first game, and obviously committing lesser unforced errors, because Rafa was kind of over the place in the first set, like especially with the unforced errors that came into play. So what were your thoughts like when you were watching this first set, and did you have anything going on, like did you guess that this was going to be a 5-setter, or Rafa was going to win one way or Medvedev the other?
Not really, man. When the third set started, I was like, this is Medvedev's championship. But then again, this crowd thing, I think we should talk more about it, because I remember in 2019 US Open final also, Medvedev played Nadal, and that time that match also went to 5 sets. And in the previous rounds, Medvedev and the crowd had this, I don't know, a love-hate relationship going on. I think
they were booing him as he came in too.
Yeah. So stuff like that happens in sports, I guess, but in tennis, people who are like diehard tennis fans, they know that you should not boo or say something between two serves, stuff like that is just not acceptable. But a lot of that was happening. I did not expect the match to go to 5 sets.
Just as a quick aside though, I don't get the whole you have to be quiet during serve and you have to be quiet during the points thing. It's for me at least, because as a sport, tennis, I kind of get it, I guess. But if you take other sports, right, if you look at chess, you need a lot of concentration. There's people going around doing all kinds of stuff. Even take like cricket, right? You still need, if you're a batsman facing, I don't know, Shoaib Akhtar or Mitchell Stark or somebody at 95 miles, and you still need a concentration to play the ball in a cauldron of, I don't know, 30,000, 50,000, 70,000 people if you're playing at the MCG. So I never got why you had to be silent in games like tennis and golf, Abhijit.
So basically it's called something like margin of errors. Like, for example, when you are playing football or cricket professionally, the stadium is so big. What two people are talking about, it does not matter, because it doesn't even reach the players, the noise or the voice or whatever the people are saying. In chess, you just have to move a piece, right? Once you have, let's say, a move structured in your brain, then you just have to move a piece. But in tennis, the margin of error is so high with your shots, because you are tossing a ball and then you're hitting the ball. and that's the reason that if someone says something just right behind you, it can impact you, because in tennis you have to believe that you are going to make this shot. Tennis is it's really a mental game. People say it's like a physical sport, but I would say it's like 50, 60, 70% mental. It's more mental than.
I think Nadal showed it this time that it's about it's all in the mind this time.
I mean, Djokovic is only, I think, someone who I know who can actually doesn't care what the crowd is doing. He's time and again proved that he can overcome crowd noise, and he has the technique. Actually, I think in 2019 Wimbledon final, when a reporter asked him, how do you manage this? He was like, when people chant Roger, I hear Novak. He actually works on all these things. He works with a sports psychologist, and that's amazing, man. I mean, these are the things to learn.
And so I wanted to pull on that thread a little bit, because you mentioned the role of the crowd, right? So at least from what I observed, I think for the first 3 sets, I felt Medvedev was also getting the cheers on the points he was winning, and stuff was going all right. I think it's after this third set that you started seeing things go the other way, where even when he was winning points, he was being booed, and there were people shouting through and stuff. But what was most interesting was, I felt like you said, Djokovic learned how to deal with the crowd. I think Medvedev needs to learn how to deal with the crowd. And I say this because I remember there was this point he comes to the net to actually score a sitter, right? He's trying to hit this sitter, and he actually nets it. And that's when the crowd actually boos, because he misses it and the crowd boos him. But at that point, he's instigating the crowd too. Like, if you see his reaction, he's actually sarcastically, farcically clapping and saying Rafa or something. You can't read his lips, but he's actually being sarcastic. So in some ways, he's also playing an enemy to the crowd, basically. So I think what you said is very important. You've got to learn how to deal with this crowd, and I'm pretty sure he's going to learn to deal with it, because he's going to win a couple of more slams for sure, and especially after Rafa said it, so it better come true.
The point you mentioned, I think that's where the match changed, pretty much. I mean, I think from there, Nadal just took care of things, and yeah, as you said, I'm very sure Medvedev will learn to deal with crowd better, and he will couple of.
Yeah, and I think in tennis too, it's interesting how as players get older, they know how to handle those pressure situations, right? Especially you see this all the time. You saw Sampras winning those US Opens when he's kind of older. You see Agassi making it to all those Grand Slam finals. You see Federer doing the same. As you grow old, tennis is one unique sport where as you get older, you still kind of can, if you're really, really good, you can still kind of remain consistent at, making these Grand Slam semifinals and finals at a minimum, right? There are new players coming in all the time, but it's still the most experienced guys who invariably make the semis and the finals, which is super interesting. Now, Medvedev had his own anger issues too during the tournament, Abhijit. But I think for the most part, I think his anger was just justified, especially against Tsitsipas, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Tsitsipas and Medvedev have such a funny, weird history. I think if audiences have a chance, they should go back and check out this 2018 Miami match where Medvedev won, and at the net, Tsitsipas called Medvedev bullshit Russian. And it's funny because Tsitsipas, he himself is half Russian, his mother is Russian and he himself is Greek. And then Medvedev got like really angry, and he's like, you're a small kid who doesn't know how to fight. And his English is a bit funny, and at least back in the day. And, he said something like, man, you better shut your fuck up, okay? And that became a very iconic line. So that's how their rivalry started. And now I think the head-to-head record is 7-2, something like that. Medvedev is leading. But yeah, they've always had this rivalry, and I think they will have many more years competing against each other.
And just remind me if I got this correct, but he was shouting at the chair saying his dad was coaching or something, right? Is that the thing? So again, I understand that in tennis, your coach isn't allowed to interfere in the game, right? So you cannot be coached during the game. So what is happening here? Can any of you let me know?
Sure. So in tennis, like team sports like Davis Cup, Fed Cup, that's where the coaching is allowed. And, there are some lower events, ITF events. There are some events where you can do the coaching, but it's not available on ATP Tour or at the Grand Slam levels. So it's an open secret that Tsitsipas' father always is giving him coaching signs. It's something like, what used to happen with Tony Nadal and Nadal, like, Rafael Nadal back in the day. They had the similar accusations. And yeah, same thing happened this time. So actually, it's funny because this time there was a Greek umpire who was kept under Tsitsipas' box, and she was signaling the chair umpire when Tsitsipas' dad was giving him coaching, and that's
when he got the warning, right?
Yep, correct.
Yeah, that's crazy. But yeah, Medvedev looks like he's a really, really. I mean, he was justified in his anger, but also he backs it up. He plays a really good game. So there is that. Just talking about Nadal in the big picture, right? So as Aniket said, I did not see this coming, at least this time around. So at a minimum, I think he's going to win 22 because there's always going to be a French Open every year. So he's going to automatically win the French Open anyway, right?
So let's just give the listeners a little bit of context, right? So come September this year, he was actually in crutches, right? He was not walking. Nadal, when I say I'm talking about Rafael Nadal. So he had undergone injury and a surgery. Was it a foot surgery that he had undergone? So foot surgery.
Knee.
And then while he was approaching the Australian Open, he contracted COVID and he was out for 10 days. So clearly he's not coming back from playing a lot of tennis or stuff like that. He's actually coming back from one of his slow times, right? And I think even Medvedev mentioned that that Nadal told him that he had not played for like a lot of time and stuff like that. So from here and then coming to win the Australian Open in a 5-setter against someone who's 10 years younger, I think that's the crazy part about this victory is that there is this 10-year age gap, and boy, Nadal doesn't tire, because you saw him getting into his element after the third set, because in the first set he actually looked exhausted. I don't know what it was, but he actually looked tired. Things were not coming into play, but he got into I don't know, is it right to call flow state, but he was in his game, in his element in the third set onwards. He was like the 25-year-old Nadal who... So I think I saw one difference though when I say that. In 25-year-old Nadal would never leave anything, but now you could see him strategically, tactically conserving his energy, going for balls that were there. So he did play an extremely smart game. And I wanted to add this because I prepared this in notes and bolded it, because his strategic use of the drop shot to get Medvedev out, I think he scored about 5-6 points doing that, but he did it so beautifully. And then I think Medvedev lost a lot of points trying to mimic that. So he did a couple of drops to get Nadal, but Nadal was always there to get to the ball. And it was such. I'm just watching the match in my head again while I'm talking.
It's very difficult to beat Nadal physically. I think I've only seen him beaten physically twice. It was last year at 2021 Australian Open when Tsitsipas beat him in 5 sets in this quarterfinals, I think. And then again last year when Djokovic won against him at French Open. I think those are the 2 events that I can recall where Nadal was beaten physically. Otherwise, I've never seen Nadal lose physically. And this final also, I mean, it's amazing that he's 35 and Medvedev is 25, but Nadal was the one with, fresher legs in the 5th set. So yeah, kudos to Nadal.
And Medvedev was actually called his trainer and getting his... I mean, there's no shame in that, but you can see the amount of toll it actually took on him just playing Nadal. I mean, that guy's a beast, Nadal.
I mean, if there is one thing we can learn from his game and from his career trajectory is that he never gives up. It's just like the young Nadal was just until the ball hits the ground for the second time, you knew he was going to get it somehow or the other, right? It's unbelievable how he gets to those balls. I mean, Djokovic is also the same. Don't get me wrong, but man, Nadal is, when he initially came on, he was just going for it, and he would actually get to those balls and also convert them into winners, because invariably what happens was people the opposing player would think that he hit a winner, so he would just to be sure he'd come to the net just in case he brought it back, but he would convert those really, really tough, almost hitting the ground balls as winners and just tremendous cross court or down the line passes. So unbelievable player. I mean, I'm sure we'll see him at the French Open. I'm sure he'll go far. It'll be an upset if somebody beats him at the French Open, right, Abhijit?
Yeah, I mean, if Djokovic gets to play French Open, because the vaccination laws are, if you're a foreigner, even if you're a foreigner, if you want to enter a stadium, you need to be vaccinated. So let's see if Djokovic makes that decision. I doubt he will make that decision. So we'll probably see him at Wimbledon next. But yeah, if Djokovic is not playing, then yeah, it's going to be Nadal again. That's my bet.
I'm curious to see how many Grand Slams he's willing to let go to get to this. I mean, I'm just now it's a matter of curiosity. Like what is he willing to let go? How strongly does he believe in this? Because I don't know what his beliefs are, by the way. But I just know that he doesn't want to be vaccinated. So
whatever his beliefs are, whatever makes him a champion on the court is the same thing that puts him in trouble, because the psychology is the same, the self-belief that I'm right and, like I'm doing the right thing. I remember I told you guys this, I wrote this article about him and, the power of now. And if you go a bit into that article, you learn how he thinks about stuff and, this even alternative medicine and alternative approach to things. So, yeah, I mean, that's what makes him champion, but that's what's going to ruin his legacy.
Yes,
also.
we'll link that to the show notes for sure. I read that article, by the way. You guys should check it out too. Aniket, do you have anything else to show about the men's side of things before we move on to the women's side?
No, I think we've mostly covered everything. Just one more shout out to Rafa for 21. But yeah, otherwise I don't want to add anything more. I think we've done a pretty decent job. I mean, I don't think there was anything much more we could say, because what people have seen is just legendary. I don't think you can just cover it in a voiceover podcast. But go ahead, Abhijit, you want to say something?
Just want to point one last thing. I don't know how Nadal fans going to take this, but if Djokovic was in the draw, things would have looked different.
For sure. I think it was just to lose. I mean...
True.
And just to
9-0 at Australian Open.
Just to set the record straight, right? So there are three. There's Roger Federer, there's Rafael Nadal, and Novak Djokovic. So the attempt at number 21 has been made 9 times by Roger Federer, 9 or 8. I don't know exactly which one, 9 or 8. I think Roger has made attempts to get the 21st. 1 by Djokovic and 3 by Rafael Nadal. So it was, I think this is the third attempt. I think he got the 21st in, if I'm not wrong. I think.
Yeah. I mean,
Rafael Nadal.
There are always going to be these what ifs, what if this happened, what if that happened. But at the end of the day, you just are driven by results. I mean, Federer
for sure. And I blame no one but Novak.
I mean,
there's also
Federer would have
name,
never won a French Open as long as Nadal was playing. But Nadal got upset in that French Open, and look, now he has a career slam, right? So it just, some of these things, a lot of these what ifs happen in sport, but just have to live with it.
And just to add to it, him and Novak both have 2 career slams, right? Like, so both of them have won each of these Grand Slam twice completely.
Yeah.
I don't know. I want to ask one more question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's going to happen with Federer, guys? I'm like, I think, I don't know. I hate saying this being a Federer fan, but oh wow, it seems very unlikely that there is a comeback coming.
I think he's just going. He's at a stage where he's enjoying life at the moment. I think he's in a very, very, very comfortable spot. I don't think he's obviously very, very competitive, and once he's on the court, he's going to give it all. But I think he's in a mind space where Federer is, just living a good life, enjoying some family time, taking it slow. He has a share of injuries, so if he gets back, he's probably going to pick and choose the tournaments and the Grand Slams that he plays. I would be surprised if I see him in the French Open, but he'll probably be back for Wimbledon. But having said that, he's definitely the third cog on that wheel right now. There's no doubt, right, Abhijit?
Yeah, man. I mean, Federer is my favorite, but he's 40 years old now. Yeah. It's very difficult to win majors anymore. Yeah. But you never know. I will never rule out these 3 guys, ever. So yeah, we'll see what happens.
For sure. And also Federer's congratulatory message to Rafa was pretty cool. So he put out a great statement, and that just tells us more about their rivalry and how they respect each other. So with that, let's move on to the women's finals.
What a spectacular night for Ash Barty and Danielle Collins. This is unbelievable tennis. Congratulations to both of them. Ash Barty 1-5 down. You rock. Well done.
just to set the context, I think in 44 years, no Australian had actually won the Australian Opens, especially women's. So it was 44 years, and they were actually waiting for someone to come and win the Australian Opens, and Barty actually did that. So what did you guys think about the game and her tournament on a whole? Because she did it without dropping a single set, right? So it was pretty epic. So I'll open the floor. Abhijit, thoughts?
Man, Ash Barty, from a top cricketer to world's #1 player, and now to win her third slam, that's just amazing. I'm like, like people do a lot of amazing things in their lifetimes, but she's already done too much, man. And she's only 25.
It's crazy. Yeah.
What a brilliant player.
What did you make of her tournament at all? Was she coming in as a favorite, or was she one of the many favorites? Because we saw all of the I guess the recent successful players crash out early. We saw Osaka crash out early, and now that's a whole thing. I don't know what's happening with Osaka. And then what is the British player's name again?
Raducanu.
Emma Raducanu. Emma Raducanu crashed out early. She had a change of coaches, and now I mean, it's probably how the like a young player's trajectory goes, I guess. But so she crashed out early. So was Ash Barty one of the favorites, or was she the favorite coming in?
She was definitely my favorite because she's world #1, and again, I just felt like when she won French and Wimbledon, people were like, can she do the same on the hard courts? And,
yeah.
She's been deep in the tournaments before. So, yeah, I mean, she was the favorite to win, and she did. But, yeah, again, there were players like, Osaka, who always plays good at Australian Open. And there was a lot of news around Fernandez and Raducanu, who crashed out early. But women's game is like that, man. It's been like that for a few years now. I think it's a good thing. That means there's a depth in women's game. But yeah, there's nobody near Ash right now. I mean, she's absolutely killing it.
Yeah, and I was also talking to a friend who's actually from Australia, and her winning in Brisbane was great because she's actually a local hero, and and you could see that in the reception after the way she was received after winning, and even before actually. When we talk about crowd, the role of crowd, I think even in this game you could see a clear favorite among the two players, and this is where I thought Collins took it pretty well. Like, I don't know if you saw her statements after, where she said that she just loved it. Like, it was more like challenge accepted. So I think I love that mentality. But otherwise, any thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to give a shout out to Collins, because she is someone who came through the college system, and that doesn't happen so often. But now I see a lot of tennis players who've gone through the college route and now are going deep in tournaments and winning tournaments. So that's amazing to see. Just for our listeners who do not know, in United States, there are 3 levels. Like, for example, if you are getting paid to play tennis, you're a professional. Then amateur status is actually given to the people who play college sports. So you do not get paid, but you are playing college tennis for your university. So Collins did the same. And then of course you have recreational players. Anybody else is just a recreational player. So yeah, I mean, amazing to see such college players winning big.
What do you make of her game? As you pointed out a little earlier, she did well on the grass court. She does well on clay. Now she's her weakest tournament for now is the US Open. I think she only got as far as the 4th round so far. She hasn't gone past the 4th round yet, I think, in the US Open. So talk to us about her style of play, and if she has the game to kind of be good at all surfaces.
Yeah, I think she has the game, man, for sure. But I just think US Open in general is the most difficult tournament to win these days, just for men and women both, because there are day matches and then night matches. It's the world's biggest tennis stadium. There's a crazy noise. And even if you see men's game, all the new champs like Dominic Thiem, Medvedev, Del Potro, Maran Cilic, all these boys, they won the slam at US Open. And someone like Djokovic, who's like the greatest hardcore player of all time, he's won only thrice. So yeah, I mean, US Open is very difficult, but I'm very sure if Ash manages that a bit, she can do better there, and she will win.
Is she mostly a player who's on the baseline and uses her ground strokes for the most part, or does she come into the net? What is her style of play?
her slice, man, it's the best slice I've seen since Justin Henin. I mean,
Justin had a hard end. Yeah,
she has like all the weapons in her game.
that's pretty good.
And again, she used it pretty well, actually. Her slice to actually control the game. It was, yeah, that's a nice point. I wanted to bring that up. You brought it. Great.
I know last time we spoke, Abhijit, we spoke a little bit about, I think we spoke about Osaka. So what's happening with her? She took a break. Now she was back for the Australian Open and then she crashed out early. Do you think it is a technical thing in her game, or do you think it's more of a mental thing that's going on with her right now?
I mean, her game looks fine to me, Like, I remember Andy Murray, he tweeted about, about Osaka, how well she hits the ball on the lines. And yeah, I think technically, at that level, you can't do too many adjustments now. But then again, I think it's mental. Last year, we know what happened. She decided to take a break and then she was off. I think, yeah, she just needs to play a lot of tournaments in one go, and then we'll see Osaka coming back, man. I still believe her game is there and she can still win many more slams. I think she's the best active tennis player right now after Serena. I mean, and Venus, yeah, she already has 4 slams right now, I think. She's been world number 1. It's just that this mental health issues, are stopping her. But I think she'll make a comeback soon.
And I just want to take this point to drive home the fact of how difficult it is actually to perform at that level, being consistent. I mean, we listen to people talk about Djokovic, Federer, Nadal, 20. At this point, 20 seems like 3 people have it, but it actually is not that easy. And having consistency at that level is something insane. So I only wish Osaka gets back, cause and my recommendation today will be about the mental aspect of sports too, because mindset is the third element. So there are 3 things like so Michael Gervais, who's a sports performance psychologist for the Seattle Seahawks, he talks about how you can actually develop 3 parts of your skills. One is your athletic ability, your body. The other is your actual skill in whatever you're doing. And the third is the mind. So these are the 3 things you can actually control when you want to become a world-class performer. And most people have a control over these 2 because you start tennis young. So you have a very good timing of the ball and you train in the gym hard. But the third aspect is this mind, which we saw about Rafael, Nadal, Djokovic and all these great guys come in. And it's supremely underrated. But you can see, actually, this is a very good example of Osaka, of how it can actually destabilize some of the greatest of players. And only more power to her, because I really want to see her back on the circuit and win something.
And Abhijit is right. She has the game. She's a tremendously good player. She has the power game going too. So yeah, I think it's at the end of the day, it is reps at the end of the day. As Abhijit said, she needs to get into more tournaments and then slowly get into the rhythm of getting on the tour. That is something that we need to see. Moving forward to the French Open, Abhijit, do you have, again, it is the women's game, it's so hard to pick a favorite before, but now that the Australian Open is complete, the focus will move to Roland Garros. So do you have any prospective favorites to win that tournament?
Again, I will put my bet on Ash. I think after winning this Australian Open, I think, her confidence is going to double now. I mean, she will be fearless at French Open, and I hope she wins, man. I like seeing Ash win. I think that's good for tennis. I like that.
For her, man, she's probably going to finish another career slam or something this year. Take a couple of years break, get into the Big Bash, play for the women's Big Bash. Score some runs. She's an all-rounder, so she score some runs, get some wickets, and then come back into individual sport and win some more slams. Kind of unbelievable.
They make it look so simple.
It's just it's almost so natural to them, right? But moving on, I saw something in the notes that I had no idea that Aniket added, which is that we have the first all Australian pair to win the men's doubles title since 1997. Thanasi Kokinakis and our very own Nick Kyrgios. Abhijit, I don't know if you followed this story or not, but I had no clue that he was even playing doubles and he won it all.
Man, that was, for me, I think, I love that, they kind of made doubles great again. It was so fantastic to see all their matches, and they beat all the top seeds, including the first seed.
I
And
think Pavic and I forget the other guy. I think they were Czechoslovakian or Croatian. I think the world number
Croatian.
one, Pavic, and I forget the other gentleman's name. But yeah, it was. So I want to talk about that game actually. So they put on a show for at least the semi-final for the audience, and so I really had a blast watching that game. So I typically started watching only from semi-finals onwards, and especially Nick, once he got into his element, it was absolute entertainment. But then I was also wondering, was it only because they were in Australia? Like, would you, and the crowd was favoring, would you be able to pull something off like this in a French Open when it's more neutral and stuff? Because they did put on a show to the point where it actually got irritating to the opponents most of the time. You could see even in the finals, the opponents were like kind of edgy, even though they were Australian, right? They were playing against an all-Australian pair. But you could see that that behavior, they were having fun. So I have no problem when people are having fun, because that's what sport is supposed to be.
Yeah.
You're supposed to go and enjoy.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes we take it too seriously. And that's what they made us realize, like, you got to have fun. And I think they're also childhood friends who've been together for a while, and you could see that. So it was very interesting, but I wanted your take on the way they played the semis and the finals. I just wanted your thoughts on that. What did you think, Abhijit?
Yeah, man. I mean, it's understandable that, they are playing Australian Open in Australia. Both players are Australians, and they were getting the crowd support. But then again, as you say, in the final, they were playing against another Australian pair. But just the fact that Nick Kyrgios's game is so spectacular. People love watching him. You can love him, hate him, whatever, but you can't ignore him.
He's an entertainer. Yep.
Can't take your eyes off him.
It's like a box office. And Thanasi also, he just came back from injuries. He won an ATP title single just before the Australian Open. So he was in a good form. And I had a blast watching them, man, throughout the tournament. It was great, even on the court, off the court, the war of words between Kyrgios and, the other opponents. It was fantastic. Michael Venus, he called Kyrgios, I think he called him a snob or something. And then Kyrgios said the stuff, Michael Venus was wearing on the camera. He said, that's something I would wear for Halloween or something. And, it was a lot of popcorn stuff, entertainment. But yeah, I'm just glad they won it, man. They made doubles great again. And I hope people play and watch doubles more, because when I go to a club, that's what we usually do. Most recreational players, they play doubles, and doubles was glorious back in the day. Even singles players used to play doubles, but right now it just doesn't happen that often. So I'm glad that at least these two are shining some light on doubles.
Kyrgios is just, as you said, total box office. Pavic and Mektic, by the way, is the other guy who the Australian pair beat out in the second round, which is great. It is kind of... you are right, though. Doubles is super fun to watch. The Bryan brothers have retired, right?
Yeah.
Yes, they have retired.
Okay, man, I remember them, but they were just... I think one of the Bryan brothers did play with Sania at one point, didn't he? I'm trying to remember.
I'm very sure he must have.
Okay.
Yeah. Very much possible.
Yeah.
Man, even in India, our best Leander Pace and Mahesh Bhupathi, it was so much fun to watch them play. Pace at the net and, Bhupathi from the baseline. Doubles are fun, man. I hope people watch more doubles. I think it will be great.
Yeah, it was also good to see on the Indian broadcast Somdev Verman. It was Somdev Verman he was in the studio. It was good to see him, but I mean, it was overall. I think the pre-game and the post-game show was just it's just meh. But it was just good to see him though. Any other point? How did talk to us about? By the way, guys, check out Abhijit's piece on Sania Mirza that he wrote soon after on News Laundry soon after she retired. So definitely check that piece out. What do you make of Sania's Australian Open?
Yeah, I mean, she lost the first round in doubles, but then she went a bit deep into the mixed. She had a decent run. But I guess I don't know if you saw her. She said the other day that she regrets that she announced it right now, because she still has like 11 months of, time to play. So, but yeah, I mean, right now I don't care about the results anymore. I just want to see Sania as long as she's playing, because whatever she had to do, she's already done it for Indian tennis. She's our India's greatest female tennis player. And our biggest tennis star, I would say, I mean, of course, Leander has been, more successful, 18 Grand Slams. But just in terms of that star power, I think Sania has been more influential. So yeah, I just want to see her play, man, for the rest of the year. That's it.
Yeah, I hope. Yeah, I hope so too. I think this next 11 months are just about having fun, so it'll be good for her. So it'll be good to see her back in action.
By the way, just one point, like I had mentioned in the article, she inspired me to take up a racket, and people are asking me, is that true? And it's actually true, man. Like 2005 Australian Open, I remember there's a club called Ladies Club. I mean, gentlemen and kids are also allowed. But I was 12, and I remember Sania's run, and then my mom, actually taking me to the club, and, I started playing tennis. I mean, of course, Sania and Federer and Nadal, they were the three big names back in the day, at least for an Indian tennis fan. And she inspired a lot of people, man. So yeah, a lot of people do not realize what she's done, but I hope sooner or later people do realize that what she's done for Indian sportswomen. That's pretty amazing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I think she brought Indian tennis onto the map after a lull, because obviously it's wrong to say that Indian tennis was not there, because we always had Leander Paes, Mahesh Bhupathi pairing. But it was rare to see. I mean, she also prematurely retired from singles. But I remember her being the first Indian singles player I actually signed in to actually watch. And I can remember her. I think Australian Open with Serena Williams, because the full family got on the television to actually see that game, even though it was a rather underwhelming game. But it was good to see an Indian, and it was good to. She was the first player I remember actually Indian I tuned in to actually watch playing singles. So I think she has done great for the sport, and I only wish she does better.
Yeah, for our generation, she was the first. At least for me, she was the first Indian player, period, to at least I watched playing singles. Right, we've always seen doubles, and I watched a bit of Bhupathi Pace, but then they split up, and it was always you watch either Bhupathi in the doubles or Pace in the doubles and the mixed doubles, but never together. And then it was Sania, right, who just came onto the scene, and it was good to see her play just singles by herself.
Man, I just hope people go back to YouTube and just check out Sania's forehand. Oh my God, it's one of the best shots, especially a younger Sania. Her forehand was like on fire.
Oh man, yeah. So she kind of initially too. When she was young, she lived and died by that forehand, So she was just that booming forehand. We spoke about her forehand and all of her other stuff off the field as well with Sharda a couple of weeks, last episode. So do check it out, guys. I'm kind of plugging that episode again. Any other standout things for you in the Australian Open this time, Abhijit, that we missed?
I think we've covered it all, man. I mean, now let's see what happens for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So one thing people should know that next year there'll be a Netflix how do I say, a series about the tennis season. So we'll hopefully welcome new fans in the sport, and yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to that. It will be for tennis.
That Netflix documentary sounds pretty cool. So I know any sports documentary or sports content out there, I'm always game for that. So I'm definitely going to check that out. Aniket, did you have anything else for the Australian Open?
No, I just wanted to ask a provocative question and then leave it at that for tennis. So do you see the results of the men's and women's singles repeating in Roland Garros this time?
Medvedev is not going to reach the final of French Open.
I meant just the Grand Slam winners, like Ash Barty and Rafael Nadal picking it up again.
Yeah, I mean, if Djokovic is not playing, my bet is on Nadal, and in women's anyway, my bet is on Ash. So yeah, I would say
Abhijit putting his neck on the line like last time, and last time he was right, and he's probably going to be right again for the French Open too. I'm sure you will have him on for the French Open during the French Open also. So there was a big announcement just last night that Tom Brady is going to retire. Now, to lay some context, right? Tom Brady was a quarterback for the most part for the team called New England Patriots, and for a couple of years he played for this team called the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? Now his position is the quarterback. So the quarterback in NFL, especially on the offense side of things, he's like the point guard in basketball. He is the person responsible to initiate everything. He's like the general. What he does for every play dictates the whole play of the others on the offense, right? So he's the guy who gets the ball on every play, and he's the guy who's either passing it to somebody else or handing it off for another guy to run forward. At the end of the day, in NFL, similar to rugby, you have to move forward and get to the end zone, right? So the quarterback is the most important position in the NFL. So Tom Brady was a guy who came in the 2000 in the year 2000 in the 2000 draft, because as Abhijit shared, similar to some of the tennis players, the football players, the American football players come in through the college system. So once they are out of college, or once they decide to get out of college, they enter this draft, and then they get picked by individual teams based on their track record and their own analysis, right? So Tom Brady in the year 2000 comes in, and he was picked 199th, right? So he was the 199th player to be picked in the 2000 draft. So that tells you that he was not a big prospect. He retired at the age of 44, guys. So he came in 22 years ago. He retired at the age of 44. He won the Super Bowl. It's like the championship, right? So there is a season, there's a league. The league has, they play every season similar to the IPL. He's won it all 7 times. He made it to the finals of the Super Bowl 10 times. So he won 7 out of 10 Super Bowls in total. He's won back-to-back Super Bowls that you very, very rarely see. He's had a perfect season, which means they won all of the games in the league stage of a season once. That's only repeated. I think this is only the second time that any team was able to do it. He did it in 2007 with his team, New England Patriots. So up until the age of 37, right? He won 3 Super Bowls. That is all he won, 3 Super Bowls, right? He had a major. So to lay some context again, I know I'm kind of rambling here and there. So when he entered, his is a story of comeback. His is a story of never letting it quit. His story is of making the most of every opportunity that he got. So he was not seen at any stage of his career up until he made it big in the NFL as this really, really talented, gifted player, right? He had to earn his spot at all times. There is this wonderful video just before he was even enrolled in college. So after high school, there's this wonderful video of his high school head coach introducing Tom Brady on video to kind of send it to all the colleges. So he goes, "Hey, this is Tom Brady. Check him out. He's my starting quarterback for New Metal High School," or something like that. So he started from there, went to the University of Michigan. He was struggling there too. He was never the first choice up until his 3rd year in college. Sorry, Aniket, go ahead.
So I was going to interject and say that even his break in NFL was when he came in for an already playing quarterback, right? So I think that's how he broke in, if I remember correct.
So even in college, right? So even before that, even in college, he was never the first choice. He had to earn his spot in his 3rd year, and then eventually he became the starting quarterback in college. So then on a whim, the Patriots selected him as their 2nd choice quarterback, because there was already a starting quarterback on their team called Drew Bledsoe. Now in Brady's 1st year, the starting quarterback Drew Bledsoe, as I just said, got hurt, like randomly got hurt. It was just one of those freak injuries. So Tom Brady came in to replace him because he was the 2nd string guy, and that was that. He never looked back from there. In his very 1st year, he won the Super Bowl. Literally the 1st year, he came in midway into the season, took charge. As I said, his is a story of making use of every opportunity that he got. Once he got the opportunity, he never even gave a second chance to anybody. So in his literally the 1st season, he went on to win the Super Bowl, and he won back-to-back again. At the age of 37 in 2014, he had, everybody thought, he has his 3 Super Bowls. He's going to go down as one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. He already has a Hall of Fame career. 37 is probably done. But no, this was his like third revival, he started winning again. He talked about off the field. He always kept talking about how he wanted to play until the age of 45. 45 was his age. He wanted to continue, but nobody believed him because that never happens in sport, right? That's not even possible. We've never seen that happen in any sport. Leave football, but just in any sport, you hardly see anybody play over the age of 40. But he was extremely vocal about playing till 45. He took tremendous care of his body. He had his own TB12 diet regimen and all of that. He claimed that he never ate strawberries for like 2 decades or something. So there's this whole insane drive that he had to play every season and win it all. So at age of 37, he wins his Super Bowl. In 2016, he wins another Super Bowl, which is probably perhaps his greatest Super Bowl win ever, when they played this team called the Atlanta Falcons. They were
Seattle
down.
Seahawks?
No, they were playing the Atlanta Falcons. They were down 28-3, so they were down by 25 points, which is seen as impossible. The game was almost 60% done. There was no way they were coming back, and then he just flips that switch, and then they score 28 unanswered points, I think, from then on. Quite an unbelievable game. I don't know. And then he just, he wins another Super Bowl. So he wins a total of 6 Super Bowls with the New England Patriots. As if that was not enough, the Patriots, made their calculations and said, look, you are 42 years old. The history has shown that there is no way that you're going to be at your peak for this long, so we're going to not renew your contract. So he fell out with the team. He went to another team called the Tampa Bay Buccaneers out in Florida. Again, nobody thought that he would go to Tampa Bay. They thought he would go to some other flashy teams, but he chose to go there. And in his first year on that, he wins the Super Bowl again at the age of 43, defying all odds. So his was a drive that is probably on par with all of the greats like Woods, Jordan, Sachin, anybody you take in any sport. Just the drive to win, just the drive to compete, just the minor things that he used to take care of every day, day in, day out, not just during the season but during the off season, is what stands out. And I think making the most of every opportunity that he got in every stage of his career is something that stands out. So Abhijit, I don't know if you follow Tom Brady or anything about the NFL at all. What did you think of Tom Brady and his retirement?
You know what I think of Tom Brady? He made an Indian guy get up early in the morning and watch a couple of Super Bowls. That's what he did. I mean, as a sports management professional, I'm always interested in, sports in general, and especially North American sports. What they do with the business is amazing. So I was always interested in NFL, NHL, NBA, stuff like that. And I do enjoy basketball a lot. And, ice hockey is also, I've seen a couple of games and they're exciting. But baseball and American football wasn't that exciting until I've watched the Super Bowl. I remember watching the game against Seahawks. And after that, I've seen a couple of Super Bowls because of Tom Brady. And my favorite part about him is like in American media, the critics, they always shut him down. And then he always came back winning, man. And now he has 7 championship rings, the most in the history, if I'm not wrong. So that's amazing to see. And to do this till the age of 44, that's just mind blowing. I remember like last time he won Super Bowl last year. Federer also sent a congratulatory post, their picture from the Met Gala, Federer and Tom Brady next to each other. And like that's kind of, Federer is taking inspiration from Tom Brady, because Federer is also in his 40s now. So yeah, Tom Brady has been very influential. And for anybody who doesn't know, it's like, people who don't know tennis, they would know who Serena Williams is. It's like people who don't follow American football, but there's a very good chance that you would know who Tom Brady is. So that's the legacy of this great man. And I hope, he's as influential as he's been on court, off court as well.
Yeah, quite unbelievable, Aniket. Just I don't think there's any debate right now. He is the greatest to ever do it in American football. It'll be weird watching. I don't follow a lot of NFL, but I do keep up with it, and I watch like key games and stuff like that. It's kind of a boring game to watch, honestly. But Tom Brady, man, if there was like 2 minutes left or 1 minute 30 seconds left, and Tom Brady had the ball and they were down by 3 points or something, you knew that he was going to win it all. He was a guy who was not especially skilled when it comes to his physical abilities. He had a really good arm, but that was all that he had. He had no running ability. He couldn't move properly, but just his drive, just his intelligence, high IQ stuff. He was also one of the gifts that he had was of the coaching staff. He had this great coach called Bill Belichick on the New England Patriots. There was just a tremendous partnership. He was as driven as Tom Brady too. So it just worked out. It just fit everything perfectly. But just greatest of all time to do it.
No, for sure. And an honest thing out there, I don't watch a lot of NFL, but I did start watching NFL after the game with Seattle Seahawks. So, because it was all over the news when it happened, and I was like, oh, let me go, and I went saw the highlights, and I'm like, oh, maybe I should catch the next Super Bowl after this. So, and that's how it's been. So I typically watch only the Super Bowls. I don't know much about Tom Brady, but if you've seen this game once, you've definitely heard of Tom Brady, and you know what he's done. And keeping everything aside, so you covered the part of this game, but just being an athlete at the age of 44, I'm nowhere there. I'm not an athlete, but I'm already contemplating retirement. So just being there and performing at that level consistently day in, day out is just insane. And it requires so much effort, so much dedication, so much hard work. And I think that part of this is really not put enough light on what these players beyond 40s are actually required to do to perform at that level. So hats off to him. And like you said, I think he is an entrepreneur too, so he has his own company. It's called TB12 and stuff. So let's see. Let's hope he does interesting and amazing stuff with that off the field.
People think if he retires at 44, he probably retired as like this old guy who had really bad, last
you should go and you should Google Tom Brady images then.
Yeah, I know. He's aged really well, and also he did not go out on a low. He went out on kind of a peak. He, as Abhijit said, he won a Super Bowl last year. He made it to the quarterfinals. Let's say he made it to the playoffs, and he was made it to the last 8. He was good in his last game. So it's not as if he was playing badly because of age. He just left on a high because he thought he was not competitive enough anymore. So that tells you the mark of how great an athlete he is if he's still making it deep into these tournaments, but still feels like he's not there anymore. So that just tells you the standard that he set for himself. So quite an unbelievable.
Sorry, Gautam, just to add to that, so I was reading a New York Times article. So there was also some speculation about him retiring, then him coming out immediately saying not yet. And then finally, I think he put out on social media saying he was retiring. But a New York Times article, I think we can attach it to our show notes, basically talks about him retiring because he believes he's not 100% committed anymore. So it was at that point that he's actually calling retirement, and not to the point where you're actually slumping in your career and wondering what's going to happen next. But he's there right at the top, and he's like, oh, maybe I don't want to give this another shot with that same intensity, and that's why I'm calling it quits. So, well, that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, quite unbelievable career. So yeah, if you guys don't know who Tom Brady is, do check him out. I'm going to recommend one of his documentaries at the end. So let's move on. I think we should finish up. I would remiss if we do not plug News Laundry. Guys, go check out News Laundry. Go to newslaundry.com, hit that subscribe button. People are on the ground right now covering the elections in Goa, UP, Kerala. I know there are other states too. My GK is wrong at this point of time, but there are people out there on the ground. News Laundry journalists out there on the ground, cameramen, producers. So go check all of our ground reports out. Go check out our YouTube channel. Go check out all of our podcasts. Go to newslaundry.com, and more importantly, hit that subscribe button. Abhijit is a subscriber, Aniket is a subscriber, I'm a subscriber. This is how we all met. So it's a wonderful platform, wonderful website, wonderful community to be a part of. So hit that subscribe button and subscribe to News Laundry.
And I'd also like to add that so if you've seen from our previous episodes and today's episodes, we like having guests over because we are not experts. So if you have anyone in mind, or if you want to be a part of this podcast, reach out to us via the form. I think we have a podcast form, and you can write directly to us. So you can do that. Or podcast@newslaundry.com is another way to reach us. But we prefer if you could just use the link under the podcast forms and write to us. So guys, pay to keep news free and watch our coverage of the elections, and keep democracy thriving. With that, Abhijit, any recommendations? Anything you want to share to enrich the life of our subscribers?
Sure. So I just want to, I want the subscribers to check out this article called Roger Federer as Religious Experience by David Foster Wallace. I think that's like the highlight of sports writing. Anybody who enjoys sports or writing should check out the article. It's beautifully written. And the second recommendation I have, the other day I was rewatching Rush, the movie, not the Imran Hashmi one, the one which is about Niki Lauda and James Hunt. I mean, that rivalry was itself great, but again, the movie adaptation was also, I think it's cinematically very well done. And I don't know, I got goosebumps, man, watching that film. The story of Niki Lauda is so inspiring. So yeah, if you haven't watched that film, please go check it out.
Gautam, I think those are fantastic recommendations. I recommend Rush too, guys. Go watch it. Niki Lauda is a person you would really want to learn more about. Gautam, you?
Is there any background noise right now? Could you check? Otherwise, I'll let Aniket go first.
There's no background noise. You're clean.
Okay, so my recommendation is going to be Mr. 199, the story of Tom Brady. It's a documentary about Tom Brady, so do check it out. And that is my only recommendation, Aniket.
Okay, so I'm going to have 3 recommendations. So one is for tennis. I just found this intriguing. It's about how it's by Financial Times, and it's like the players, how they struggle to break even. So we see, these athletes who are $1 million athletes, but what does it actually take to get there and to play as a professional, and what life is like on the road? I think this article does a pretty decent job of explaining that, and it's pretty interesting. So that's one of my recommendations. The other one was following Abhijit's comment on mindset and Rafael Nadal fighting back. So there's this amazing podcast called Finding Mastery. It's hosted by Michael Gervais, who's a sports performance psychologist, and he was involved in a lot of these training a lot of world-class athletes. I think even Felix Bomba, who actually jumped from space. So Michael Gervais was consulting with him. So he has this podcast called Finding Mastery, where he interviews world-class performers. And the whole podcast, the name says it's about finding masteries. What do these performers do different from normal people, right? So like I already mentioned, there is the body you can train, there is the skill set you can enhance, and then there's the mind. So he talks about the psychological aspect. So if you're wondering which episode to watch, there are like, I think 200 of them. So one I found very interesting was with Richard Harris, and this is on the Tham Luang cave rescue in Thailand. So the diver who's a doctor, goes into this cave and anesthetizes children, get them out from the cave. So it's a very famous rescue operation that was done. So I think this is one episode that was really nice. So that's my second recommendation. And the third is the book Open by Andre Agassi. So I just finished reading that. I think it was well timed, coincidentally, with the Australian Open. And I thought that was such a nice read and a fun read.
It's the best sports autobiography of all time. There's no doubt about it. It's just one.
Right? Okay, so I'm not the only one who feels that way, because I was blown reading that book and I was like, wow. So, okay, that's not only me who feels so strongly about the book.
All sports autobiographies. Everybody tries to live up to Andre Agassi's Open. But yeah, wonderful. I should also... go ahead, Abhijit. Sorry.
Language of life, I think... people should definitely check out the book. It's so beautiful.
I forgot. I should also recommend Abhijit's speech on Sania Mirza just after retirement on News Laundry. So do check that out, guys.
And with that, we'll take leave. So we've not thought of a sound clip, but we'll find a sound clip.
We'll play off with Nadal's 21st Grand Slam win. Yeah, that's what you're going to play our listeners off with. The moment when Nadal won his 21st Grand Slam title. So, Abhijit, thanks a lot again, man, for coming on. I'm sure we'll have you more.
Thank you so much, guys.
I'm sure, as I said, I'm sure we'll have you more. You're a great guest. Your knowledge, especially on tennis, is bar none. So, thanks for coming on again.
Thank you so much, Drew.
Yeah, thank you for your time, and we look forward to more of this. So I think there are, in my head at least, there are 4. Abhijit is going to come 4 times at least for each of the Grand Slams.
Not just for you. He's going to come on for some of our flashback episodes too, I'm sure. So
exactly. So at least
more than 4
I use the word at least 4 times in here. So mark your calendars.
Tennis, call me anytime. I'll be in.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you again.
Yep.
So we'd also like to thank our producer Jude for making this possible as always. So thank you, Jude. Thank you for bearing with us and making this a fun podcast.
Yeah. And thanks to our listeners again. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.
All the News Laundry podcasts are available on Stitcher, iTunes, and any other podcast platform.
Please subscribe to News Laundry. Help us keep news independent. To catch all our podcasts on news, pop culture, current affairs, and sport, visit newslaundry.com. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.